When I first joined staff, God really showed me that He wanted me to simply live by faith and trust Him that He would provide whatever I needed. And so that's what I've really done for the last 40 years. Some of the exciting things were I'd have to make trips overseas. And one time I had to go over to Africa and Europe for 6 weeks. God had provided money for the airplane ticket, but when I flew out of Los Angeles airport, I only had $35 in my pocket. And I'd figured it all out, that every 2 weeks I'd check back with my office and I would have gotten $200 in, and that would get me through the next part of the trip. So I get to Africa, and after 2 weeks I check back with my office, see how things had happened, and I found out that $25 had come in those 2 weeks. So that was already gone. I pretty well spent that. So when I flew on up to Europe from Africa, there was a girl that gave me a $10 bill. Now the problem with the $10 bill was I had to stop off in Nairobi, and to get out of Nairobi you had to pay a $5 airport tax. So that took about $5 of it. I stayed with some staff, and I thought it was only appropriate to offer them some money, and I only got back a $5 bill and change, so I offered that to them, and they said, okay. So they took my last $5. I had 78 cents left when I flew into Vienna. So I get off the plane, there's a note there, and from Bud Hinkson, he says, Stottler, why don't you take the bus downtown and I'll meet you at the Hilton. It's late at night. I didn't tell him I didn't have any money. My first thought was, maybe God's forsaken me. But I thought, let me sit down and I'll read the Bible. And so I was reading through the Bible, and I came to the verse someplace in Psalms where it says, no good thing does He withhold from those who walk uprightly. I thought, oh no, I've got to walk downtown. It's about 10 o'clock at night. I knew the way, and it's a beautiful fall night. So I picked up my suitcase and I started walking down the road as uprightly as I could. And I'd gone about a block, and this strange car pulled up beside me. It's like out of a mystery movie, and it stopped, and it turned out it was a woman in the car with her husband, and she was flying up from Nairobi. And when I saw her at the Nairobi airport, and our eyes met, and I knew God wanted me to help her. She had a small son, so I helped her carry the stuff on the plane and make the changes right. So the person rolled down the window, and they leaned out, and they said, where are you going? I said, I'm going downtown. They said, have you got a car? I said, no. And they said, well, how are you going to get there? And I mumbled something about trusting God. They said, it's okay if we can help you. I said, sure. So I went back and bought me a bus ticket, and came up and gave it to me, and walked off about 20 feet, and they stopped, and they talked, and they came back. Said, just in case your friend isn't downtown, here's some money, and they gave me a 500 shilling note, which was worth about another $35, which then got me through the next 2 weeks of Europe. But it was probably the best example that God had of His total provision for me, out traveling around with no money. And I would have to say that that's the greatest thing I love to do. If God were to say, Stottler, I want you to go to New York today and just go out on the freeway, but don't take any money and don't have any way to get there, I mean, I'd just be jumping up and down. So those are some of the ways that God has provided for me, and I have to say He's been totally faithful. So I would encourage all the staff out there, God's already made a commitment. He's going to provide for you. It's impossible for God to lie, and so He will. He might take it different ways and longer times than you think, but God will provide your needs.